The King's Avatar, Chapter 1650 10 Seconds to Decide Victory. Audio source, wusharworldaudiobook.com. Chapter 1650, 10 Seconds to Decide Victory. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. Lord Grimm, Cloudpiercer. Both characters moved swiftly. No delay, no hesitation, no conversation. The two looked like they weren't even thinking, putting all their focus into just moving their characters. Focus. Maximum speed. The two characters appeared in each other's sights after 16 seconds. Boom boom boom. Open fire. This was the maximum range of Lord Grimm's myriad manifestations umbrella in gun form. At max range, the power of ranged attacks were limited. Thus, many ranged characters would not open fire as soon as they were within their attack range. But Yi Xiu was up against Glory's #1 long-range attacker, and still chose to use this exact method. Everyone thought that at this long range, Josekai wouldn't break a sweat dodging with Cloudpiercer. But at the same time, Cloudpiercer also raised his dual pistols, and flames licked both gun muzzles. Bang 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 bang. Gunshots rang out like rain. Lord Grimm's attack range was only a tiny bit longer than that of Cloudpiercer's. After all, the launcher's super long attack range was from their skill. Artillery mastery, and Lord Grimm didn't possess this skill. The tiny range difference disappeared in the blink of an eye, and Josekai unexpectedly had Cloudpiercer to start attacking too. At that moment, he was also at his character's maximum attack range. The two characters started from this longest range possible and followed up by just charging forward. Lord Grimm, the character who showed his true power at close range, rushed forward. Cloudpiercer, the character whose true power was displayed at a distance, also unexpectedly rushed forward. It felt like they were driving two raced cars playing chicken. The rules were that whoever braked first would lose. This match was not a battle of skill, or awareness, or experience. This was a battle of fighting spirit. To meet your enemy in a narrow alley and courageously advance without half a step backwards, that kind of fighting spirit. Samsara need to display this kind of spirit. They put their best players in the group arena's first and second spots. Sun Xiang had already lost. At this time, if Josekai had even slightly hesitated or shown weakness, it would heavily impact on Samsara's morale and fighting spirit. Therefore, Josekai decided to fight resolutely and decisively. He wanted the whole team to carry his fighting spirit. He wanted to take this match in one fell swoop. What about on Happy's side? Many people felt that it was not necessary for Yi Xiu to do this. Because if you sound your war drums once, you will give your troops courage. If you sound your war drums twice, you will sap your troops' courage. If you sound your war drums thrice, you will make your troops' courage disappear. If Josekai was so intent on forcing a fight, shouldn't you just avoid him? Slow the pace of the match and bring it to a deadlock. Completely diffuse his attacking intentions. This would sap the wind right out of their sails. Without this fighting spirit, the weakness in Samsara's player order choice would be blasted wide open, and their group arena would fall into a deep disadvantage. But the normally calm Yi Xiu did not choose to do this. He also seemed like he was in a hurry when he had Lord Grimm charge out aggressively into the fray. The reason was actually very simple. It was only because his opponent was Josekai. Slow down the pace and bring it to a deadlock. In theory that sounded easy. But Josekai was the best of the best in Glory when it came to offensive play. If he chose to come at you like this, who dared claim they could slow down or stalemate him? Nobody dared. Therefore, Yi Xiu simply gave off a fighting spirit that didn't lose to Josekai's. He carried the same attitude and charged forward aggressively. Even though the outcome of the match was already decided, Yishu could at least make sure he didn't lose in spirit. Losing a character is fine, but he wouldn't lose in fighting spirit. If the so-called smart way to play were ever to be countered by Josekai, then he would lose his character and seem to have a weaker spirit, which would be worse. Yishu's choice for a direct confrontation seemed obtuse and impulsive, but in reality, it was the most stable play available. Bang 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 bang. Gunshots rang out endlessly. As Lord Grimm got closer, the variety of attacks he could unleash became greater. Of all the low-level skills from the 24 classes, those that were in range were thrown out without pause. Shuriken. A flick of his hand and the ninja's flying projectile shot out. Cloudpiercer's feet did not pause. His body simply tilted and the shuriken grazed by his chest. His right arm was still raised up, and his wildfire continued to spit flames. Bang bang. A bullet flew by. Lord Grimm dodged to the side, avoiding the bullet and sending out a palm chi bullet. This low-level chi master skill was not instant, but the cast time was minuscule. Yishu seized this small gap and had Lord Grimm use chi bullet. The concentrated chi went directly for Cloudpiercer's face. This move was very reminiscent of Fang Rui's dirty chi master playstyle. It was a trick he loved to use. Maybe it was because Fang Rui was part of Happy, but Samsara seemed to have kept special attention to small tricks like these. Josekai seemingly didn't even acknowledge the chi bullet. Cloudpiercer continued sprinting forward, and the chi was flung behind his head in an instant. Hit. There was no doubt it was a hit. The chi hit Cloudpiercer's face and dispersed. But so what? It had zero effect on Cloudpiercer's posture. The obstruction of Josekai's field of view was minimized by him. During this moment of blindness, he used his memory of Lord Grimm's position and his deductive skills to predict his position and never stopped attacking. He didn't give Yishu any window of opportunity during this tiny moment. Bang bang bang. More bullets flew. Lord Grimm looked like he was forced to dodge horizontally. His body was like a jumping salmon in mid-air, and the bullets whizzed past. Josekai quickly readjusted. The gun muzzles realigned and quickly found the airborne Lord Grimm. Lord Grimm went poof. A shadow clone. Roundhouse kick. Cloudpiercer's leg flew out. At the same time, his arms crossed over and his pistols continued firing wildly, random firing. Bullets sprayed out frantically in every direction. Yishu used shadow clone technique to get closer, but was immediately sent further again by the strong gale of bullets from random firing. But not before he sent out a flash of sword light and left a sword wound on Cloudpiercer. Josekai couldn't care less. WushAWorldAudio.com. After he ascertained Lord Grimm's position, he immediately concentrated random firing in that direction, and the attack's intensity immediately multiplied. Shadow steps. Lord Grimm had just given Cloudpiercer a cut and took advantage of this skill, and after images spread out. However, the random firing that was just concentrated spread out once again. The 4 Lord Grimm after images were all hit. Josekai bluntly used this method to tell which of the 4 after images was real. Collapsing mountain. It didn't matter which one was real or fake. Lord Grimm had already jumped out with another skill. Too close. Josekai figured out the true body quickly, but of all the attacks Lord Grimm sent his way, could not dodge this one. Knee strike. In the end, Cloudpiercer managed to squeeze out this low-level skill to compete with Collapsing Mountain. In terms of attack priority, Knee Strike could not compete with Collapsing Mountain. He still ended up receiving a chop to his face. Such a direct hit meant that the damage dealt was far more than that of Knee Strike 2. But knee strike had a very important skill: the character would gain super armor when using it. See, even though Cloudpiercer received a square hit to his face, his posture did not move. In the next moment, the muzzles of his dual pistols were practically pressed against Lord Grimm's head. Bang 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 bang. Flames spurt out from the gun muzzles, and Lord Grimm's head exploded in blood. But at the same time, sword light in the shape of a cross lit up Cloudpiercer's chest, and blood in the shape of a cross burst out. The two characters moved away from each other. They had no choice. The momentum from being hit forced him back. But the two characters were still attacking. As long as their opponent was within their attack range, they would not hesitate in the slightest. Bullets continued to punch blood out of Lord Grimm's body, and sword light continued to carve blood out of Cloudpiercer's body. Besides blood, there was only more blood. The blood flew out like rain. When the rain stopped, Lord Grimm fell. After all, he only started with 13% health. Cloudpiercer remained standing, but he still had both guns trained on Lord Grimm in his ending pose, as if Lord Grimm would suddenly spring back up alive. He lost 11% of his health. He lost slightly less than Lord Grimm, but this slight difference wasn't worth arguing over. It couldn't really prove if one of them played better, because it was really too short, too fast. By 16 seconds, the characters met. By 26 seconds, the match was over. From the first shot that Lord Grimm fired, to the moment he fell, the battle lasted no more than 10 seconds. 10 seconds to decide victory. End chapter. The King's Avatar. Chapter 1651. Difficult player decisions. Audio source: WurshaWorldAudiobook.com. Chapter 1651. Difficult player decisions. Translator: Nomyami. Editor: Nomyami. 10 seconds. The real battle only lasted 10 seconds. Victory was also decided in those 10 seconds. The pace was unbelievably fast. Many spectators were in the process of strapping themselves in for an epic battle when the characters first encountered each other. As it turned out, the battle was over before they even adjusted their seats. Time to reflect. Reflect on what? They didn't even see the match clearly. What could they reflect on? Everyone sat dumbfounded. The Samsara fans even forgot to give their team victory cheers. Even the big screen in the stadium didn't have highlights ready for a moment. The fight was only 10 seconds long, but to comb out the intense moments and intricacies would take far longer. The live crew and the broadcast crew were all floundering. They hadn't even settled into their regular working mentality, yet the match had already finished. Even though Yishu's Lord Grimm had little health, that 13% was able to bring about some enjoyable content. The two players were able to control their characters to have a fierce duel in these 10 seconds. Yishu walked out of the competitor booth. Finally, the spectators seemed to come to their senses slightly. The Samsara fans began to applaud. After all, this was their team's victory. But just as Yishu predicted, by fighting Josekai head-on, he lost the battle but did not lose in spirit. Samsara were being applauded for their victory right now, but Happy's players and fans did not feel any loss of morale. The highlight reel was finally ready. In the end, it was only 10 seconds worth of action. Compilations couldn't stretch time out. The numerous screens in the stadium just replayed the 10-second battle from different angles. This highlight reel did not use any slow motion, and played at normal speed. 10 seconds, and another 10 seconds, and yet another 10 seconds. The audience seemed to not mind these 10 seconds being repeated. Everyone tilted and turned their heads with interest, and watched repeats of these 10 seconds from every angle. By then, Yishu had returned to Happy's area. He also had to decide on the next person Happy was to send up. But this was not an easy decision. Even though Yishu did not lose in spirit to Josekai, not even he could suppress the opponent's confidence. Josekai would continue his fight to the death attitude and launch an aggressive offensive. Happy need to send up someone with lots of experience and ability to quickly adapt to changes to tango with Josekai. Fang Rui. He was the most suitable choice. When Yishu thought this, his gaze wandered in Fang Rui's direction. But just as he did so, his heart sank a little. Fang Rui was also looking back at him, but his gaze gave off an abnormal sense of calm. Yishu understood Fang Rui. Even though he was the epitome of playing dirty, he was definitely not the kind to bully the weak and avoid the strong. Fang Rui must also understand how crucial this coming match was. In these moments, judging by Fang Rui's usual personality, he probably would have already volunteered to play next without being asked. But now, not only Fang Rui did not speak up, but he still stayed silent when he caught Yishu's eyes. Yishu immediately knew that Fang Rui wasn't at his best. The burden from last match probably hadn't been completely erased by the 2 days' worth of rest. Fang Rui staying silent was his way of not hurting Happy's morale. But at this moment, he decided to stay silent after he exchanged looks with Yishu. This was because he knew Yishu would understand him right away. If Fang Rui couldn't go next, then who could? While Yishu was still hesitating, Sumuchung had stood up voluntarily. "Let me go." Sumuchung solved the conundrum almost nonchalantly. After she smiled faintly at Yishu, she headed towards the stage without waiting for his confirmation. "Be careful." Yishu didn't end up saying much either, because he knew that Sumuchung was fully aware of the current situation, and also that this was why she was able to so casually answer the conundrum. He didn't need to give any extra instruction, because she knew clearly what she needed to do in the situation she was about to face. "Be careful" was already not necessary for the match, but was more of a personal remark instead. "I will." Sumuchung smiled again and went on stage. Yishu turned back around and stole another look at Fang Rui. Knowing that Fang Rui was painstakingly trying to hide his current condition, Yishu certainly wouldn't press to interrogate him on the spot. The third match of the group arena quickly began, Happy's Sumuchung vs Samsara's Josekai. After the map loaded and the characters spawned, Josekai did not let anyone's expectations down, especially his Samsara teammates. Cloudpiercer resolutely charged forward, without pause or hesitation. What about on Happy's side? WushOurWorldAudio.com. Sumuchung did not lose in intensity. Dancing Rain also charged out. It could be seen that she had no intention whatsoever of slowing the tempo of this match. Surely they wouldn't have another rapid battle with a quick conclusion again. Everyone, including the audience, stadium workers, broadcast crew and such, were caught unprepared by the last 10-second match. Now, they quickly gathered up 12 minutes worth of attention in a second. Alright. Pan Lin's spirits were also roused. We can see that Josekai is charging out with Cloudpiercer just like last game. But on the other side, Sumuchung also isn't hesitating and is also directly charging out. This is probably going to turn out to be another exciting duel. What a rare sight on the grand final stage. Too true. Usually in this kind of match, both sides would err on the side of caution, and fight for an advantageous position while minimizing mistakes. But today, this is not true just looking at Samsara's player arrangement. To start with Sun Qiang and to have Josekai follow. Many people would already consider this a mistake. However, Samsara took this mistake of an arrangement to give themselves fighting spirit. On the competent stage, there is no absolute right or wrong. If Samsara lost, then it would be a problem. But what if Samsara won? The momentum would have a decisive influence. Samsara focused on this because they came to win. They would not think about what would happen after they lose. Li Yibo continued on from Pan Lin. I know what you mean. Samsara's player arrangement displays a type of determination. They only have victory in their eyes. A determination that they will definitely win. Pan Lin said. Correct, Li Yibo said. After Sun Xiang lost to Yi Xiu, Samsara's player arrangements became much riskier. Even so, Zhou Zekai still went up because Samsara was determined and tenacious. They wouldn't think about the consequences of losing. You're too right. I think you have a lot of thoughts on this matter. You must have had the same feeling back when you won the championship with Tyranny, right, Coach Li? Pan Lin took the chance to butter Li Yibo up again. Ha, Li Yibo laughed. Of course he remembered the victory clearly. However, if it wasn't for Cold Season's miraculous life-risking strike one-shotting Yi Xiu, who knew what would have happened? End chapter. The King's Avatar. Chapter 1652. No Retreat. Audio source, wuxia-world-audiobook.com. Chapter 1652. No Retreat. Translator, Nomyami. Editor, Nomyami. As Pan Lin and Li Yibo discussed the match, Sumo Chung and Zhou Zekai were finally about to come across each other. Zhou Zekai didn't slow down, but Sumo Chung didn't either. Dancing Rain was a long-range launcher, yet it looked like she was charging in like a close-ranged character. Just before the two characters were about to meet, Dancing Rain suddenly stopped. The audience was puzzled, but the pro players reacted much faster. With the help from their spectator view, they immediately deduced Sumo Chung's goals. The canyon wasn't a perfectly straight line. There were twists and turns. If Sumo Chung's Dancing Rain continued to charge AEAD like in the previous round, the outcome would be the same as before. The two opposing sides would see each other outside of their attack range. Even if Sumo Chung's Dancing Rain had a longer range than Lord Grimm and Cloud Piercer, the outcome would not change. This time, Sumo Chung had Dancing Rain stop AEAD of time. She was going to guard a tree stump, waiting for a rabbit. Zhou Zekai's Cloud Piercer would need to pass through a turn. By the time he came into Dancing Rain's sights, the two sides would be at a much closer distance. The pro players quickly saw what this distance would be. It was a distance that would allow long-ranged attackers to better display their capabilities. Sumo Chung had given up on steady, drawn-out fight. When she and Zhou Zekai fought, it would be an explosive battle. No, it wasn't just that. Having seen Sumo Chung's impressive firing line multiple times recently, the pro players had started looking into it more carefully. At this moment, seeing this distance, they quickly realized that it wasn't just a distance that would allow the two long-ranged attackers to fully utilize their firepower. This distance was a firing line distance that Sumo Chung had complete control over. In other words, this distance wouldn't just let her fully utilize her range, it would also elevate her firepower to its peak. Mounted gun. Sumo Chung calculated how much time Cloud Piercer would need to reach here, and had Dancing Rain set up her mounted gun. In the very next second, Cloud Piercer arrived. Boom 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 boom. Dancing Rain's artillery fire instantly unfolded. It was almost impossible to tell what her sequence of skills were. The moment Cloud Piercer appeared, the battlefield erupted in explosions and smoke. The explosiveness was even more intense than what everyone had expected. Dancing Rain's DPS instantly reached a peak. Cloud Piercer's situation obviously wasn't great. No one would have an easy time facing Sumo Chung's firing line. However, if he really wanted to get away from Dancing Rain's firing line, it was truthfully very simple. All he needed to do was back away a bit. Cloudpiercer had been in the midst of making a turn in the canyon, when he appeared in dancing range sights and was bombarded with artillery shells. All he needed to do was retreat a bit, and he would disappear from dancing range sights. No matter how strong her firing line may be, if she didn't have a target she could hit, then it was useless. But all of the pro players knew that while backing away was easy and effective, Josekai wouldn't choose to do it. Because what he pursued wasn't the outcome, but the circumstances. If he backed away, avoiding Sumu-chung's momentum, his own momentum would decrease, and Samsara's momentum would decrease even further. It was like a high-speed race in auto racing. Even if they saw an obstacle up ahead, instead of slowing down and going around it, it would be more satisfying crashing through it. Braking and slowing down would kill the excitement. Cloudpiercer taking a step back was equivalent to completely stopping the race car, going in reverse, and then going back forward. It would be extremely disappointing. Josekai wouldn't retreat, even if it was the safer choice. What he pursued, what Samsara pursued, was to push forward, sweeping away everything in their path. Josekai was the team's captain, the core of the team. He needed to be strong. He needed to carry out their goals. At this crucial moment, he would never drop the ball because he was someone who used actions, not words. He used his actions to give voice to himself and his teammates. Charge. Cloudpiercer charged forward. Facing the explosive launcher firing line, he fired back. This choice wasn't wise. If this were the game, anyone who made this sort of bad decision would be seen as a noob, who would be looked down upon disdainfully and then lectured by the veterans. But now, Glory's number one had made this choice in the deciding match of the finals. On the stage, there was no such thing as absolutely right or wrong. An act so noobish that anyone would laugh at the person doing it, but what if the person who did it was Josekai? Who dared to laugh at him? Seeing Josekai's decision, the normal players let out an expression of fear. In their eyes, this was what it meant to make the impossible possible. No wonder he was Glory's number one. No wonder he was a top player. The crowd went wild. Just like the pro players predicted, although this decision was unwise, it was absolutely breathtaking. Everyone loved to see the impossible become possible. Boom 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 boom. Bang bang. With the buffs from mounted guns, dancing rain's artillery fire was extraordinary. Cloudpiercer was firing back, but his gunshots seemed so weak and frail. But Josekai didn't cower. As soon as the match started, the word retreat wasn't in his dictionary. No matter the circumstances, no matter how unwise it might be, even 10 million foes would not bend his will. That was the sort of mentality he came into the match with. He was clearly a sharpshooter, a class that didn't have the ability to charge straight into a trap, but he went for it nevertheless. The people watching couldn't help but recall that before Sun Xiang's addition to the team, Samsara had lacked a direct attacker. Yet even without one, Samsara had still been able to win 2 championships in a row. In the finals 2 years ago, Samsara had eliminated Blue Rain, the team filled with unique yet synergistic players. In the previous finals, they had eliminated Tyranny, the experienced veterans who had put in their all to win. At that time, who had been their team's attacker? Josekai. Besides healing, there was nothing he couldn't do. These words weren't just empty words or an exaggerated description. Josekai had the ability to do what was impossible. Advance. The current him was like a brave warrior facing an archer. He had no choice but to press forward. Cloudpiercer charged ahead. 1 step, 2 steps, 3 steps. Burns could be seen all over him from the countless explosions. No one could break through a launcher's firing line unscathed. A close-ranged class would do everything they could to break past a launcher's wall. Most of the time, they would choose to circle around and do something unexpected to get closer to the launcher. But in this map, it wasn't possible to circle around. WashOurWorldAudio.com. The only path was forward. Joseki Cloud Piercer did what even close-ranged characters would try to avoid, getting closer and closer to Dancing Rain. He was approaching and attacking. This was the difference between himself and an actual close-ranged class. He didn't need to fully close in to attack. As he gradually escaped from the firing line, Cloud Piercer's attacks became more and more dense, more and more threatening. But Sumo Chung didn't cower either. Every time Cloud Piercer took a step forward, Dancing Rain's firing line would move back as well. She had the ability to create a perfect firing line for quite a range. But this sort of explosiveness couldn't last forever. Even a normal player understood this logic. Because this peak explosiveness required charring together as many skills as possible in the shortest amount of time. To achieve this firepower, she couldn't think about cycling her skills or about the aftermath. Sumo Chung's explosiveness had been at its peak ever since the first shot. But even this sort of burst wasn't able to completely suppress Joseki. How could she hold back? Sumo Chung didn't think too much. She had predicted that Joseki would push forward in today's match. That was why she chose this strategy despite it having such an obvious flaw. It was to make things difficult for Joseki. Even so, she still wasn't able to shut down Joseki. Victory wasn't so easy to obtain. And although Joseki had chosen to push forward, he wasn't charging at her blindly, tanking everything. He was also taking a look at the situation, observing Dancing Rain's firing line. He knew that this sort of explosiveness couldn't last forever. Sumo Chung would have to slow down at some point, unless she was confident that she could kill him during this time. But seeing the situation, it looked to be impossible. Joseki's Cloud Piercer was holding on under the barrage of artillery shells. His health was dropping chunk by chunk, but he wouldn't fall so easily. And because Dancing Rain was using mounted gun when he counterattacked, he didn't need to worry about her dodging his attacks. Even though the damage he dealt couldn't compare to Sumo Chung's firing line, he knew that the turning point was about to come. Boom, 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 boom. The explosions continued, but even the normal players could see that Dancing Rain's firing line was going downhill. The broadcast and the stadium screens displayed Dancing Rain's skill tree to let everyone see all the skills that were on cooldown. The crowd erupted into cheers. Samsara's fans knew that their opportunity had arrived. What a pity! The pro players lamented. Knowing what her opponent would do, Sumo Chung had created an enormous obstacle for him, an obstacle that couldn't be avoided. Was there a better setup? No. Everyone racked their brains trying to think of a better method. Her strategy fully utilized the strengths of her own class and her opponent's situation. If it had to be said that she did something wrong, then it would perhaps be that she had pushed her limits too far. Failure meant death. She hadn't left herself any path for retreat either. End chapter.